Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name is Dave. I was just watching some Dave Ramsey videos. He gives out financial advice, and I like some Dave Ramsey stuff, but he was just telling me that I need to cut up my credit cards in order to be successful. It's one of his baby steps, and I thought, wow, that's kind of interesting. The more I watched, the more I was fascinated with the fact that he looks at these as like some kind of evil instrument that will psychologically damage you and make you into a chronic spender by enticing you with points. That sounds pretty scary, right? Now, I look at it as just bad advice and myopic. But he does have 2 million subscribers to my few subscribers. But you guys are great. But I would compare it to like saying, don't be a chef, you will end up fat. Or swim in the ocean and you will get eaten by sharks. There's not a big chance it's going to happen. It could happen. Maybe it happened once before. Or, strippers just want the money and don't really like you. Wait a second. Whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. The point here is that, I've got a wallet, I've got my credit card in there, and I get some benefits from it by having it and using it all the time. So I'm going to show the one that I've got. Their whole channel is dedicated to this, but the one that I've got, I think, has some nice perks to it. I'm not going to stop using it. So I'll explain all that. If that's what you're looking for, please stick around. Whoop.
You have a lot of debt, you're misbehaving with money, and then you come off as prideful and arrogant about how you can handle your credit cards because you pay them off every month when 78% don't, and even those that do overspend, especially those of you with airline miles. It's the biggest scam in freaking history.
So this is obviously an area where Dave Ramsey is very passionate about it. And there's plenty of information out there to kind of back up what he's talking about. I mean, if you seriously have no discipline, if you lack discipline, or you have an addiction to spending, this does make sense. You might run into the same issue with a debit card like he likes to use, because eventually the bank's probably going to call you, though, at least and say, hey, you have nothing left. But if we take a look at the, how much credit card debt Americans have right now, we've hit the $800 billion mark. So the latest Fed data shows that consumer credit card balances rose to $800 billion in the third quarter of 2021. Pretty substantial when you think about it. So if you look at this chart here, wow, it's just a growing problem in America for a certain segment of America. Because what we look at here is if we look at what percentage of credit card accounts carry a balance, he has his number that he shouted out there. But if we look at the green here, green is carried a balance at some point in Q2. Blue is used credit card but never carried a balance in Q2. And then red is had credit card but didn't use it. So of the people that used it, it's about a third and a third, right? Or I guess if you take out the red, it's about half and half, right? So half the people are carrying credit card debt and the other half are not. And then you think about that, half the people, and that equals $800 billion worth of credit card debt. Yikes. Pretty substantial. So there are some people that are really suffering through this and struggling with paying off those credit cards. And of course, if you're trying to grow your wealth, credit cards are not the way to do it. You want to pay that off, that's bad debt. And you want to get into good debt, like a mortgage on your house would be good debt. Credit card debt, if we look at this, is horrible debt, because what's the average interest rate on people's credit cards? What about those who carry a balance? What about new credit card offers? If you look at this, wow, average APR for new credit card offers, 19.5%. That's ridiculous. That's predatory. Average APR for all current card accounts, 14.5%. Yikes. And average APR for all accounts that accrue interest, 16.44. So just a crazy amount, just a crazy APR. I mean, nothing that we want to be involved in. So that's why we utilize these the proper way. And if you do that, I think you're okay. But obviously, when he's talking about this, I think he's talking to a segment that says these people are really struggling with this. You got to get out and got to get out now. One of the secrets to creating wealth is figuring out what you get to keep, right? You make it from your job, then you spend it on all your expenses. What's left over is what you get to keep. Now, you pay yourself first, right? And you get to grow your wealth. So credit cards help you with this. So I would never say don't have a credit card. There's lots of great benefits to having credit cards. And there's all kinds of YouTube videos out there and websites dedicated to letting you know which is the best one to keep in your wallet. They know this stuff inside and out. So for me, it's not unlike clipping a coupon where I clip out the coupons, go to the grocery store, and I save some money. So now what I get to keep more. I get to grow my wealth a little bit quicker. So other benefits of credit cards are things like convenience, right? It's very easy to charge something with a credit card as long as you're responsible. Now, it also helps you build credit. So if you're a young person and you're just getting into credit cards and you're charging some things and you're routinely paying off, this is going to help build your credit. Additionally, you get protection versus like a debit card, which Dave Ramsey says use a debit card. Well, those are more vulnerable to fraud. So I don't like to use a debit card. And yes, of course, reward points. So you combine all these things together and wow, credit cards look pretty darn good. So for me, the evil instrument that I've been using for the last few years is the Southwest Rapid Rewards Priority Visa card. And we fly a lot of places on Southwest, so it works really well for our family. But depending on where you go and what you do, you probably want a different one. So I'll talk about this particular one. I like it because it has 2 tiers of benefits. So I got to work really hard and spend that extra money to get to that second tier. But usually within the course of my natural spending, I get there. So I'm not like buying additional points. I'm not going out and charging anything else. But it's nice because every now and then, family and I get to go on a vacation that we're going to go on anyway. And we jump on the airplane and I don't have to pay anything for the trip. It's really nice going down there and coming back for free. So obviously this card is best for those who are going to be flying on Southwest Airlines a few times a year at the minimum. They do have a business credit card, a plus, a premier, and a priority card, and those are kind of broken down here too. You can find it all on their website. But I'm with the priority card because how much I'm flying and utilizing it. So they have a $149 annual fee on this one, but that's offset by the $75 Southwest annual travel credit and the $7,500 or 7,500 points that you get on an annual basis in your account, which equates to about $100. So between that 100 and the 75, as long as you fly once or twice a year, you're going to spend that up, and this annual fee is going to essentially be zero or put a couple bucks in your pocket. Now, it says earn 40,000 points after you spend 1,000 on purchases in the first 3 months from account opening. But I've seen better deals with this as well. Some always earning up all the way to 100,000 points depending on the time of the year. So something to watch for if you're trying to, really work the system and try to get to something like Companion Pass, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But you can see all the other perks here too, as far as earning points more with you spend on certain things. So again, this isn't something that even crosses my mind. I never really think about this, but I know other people do. Now with this one, you do get 4 upgraded boarding passes per year when available. And, I guess if you're not flying a lot, it won't matter. If you're flying a lot, then these are nice little perks to have. But with all these perks, the obvious one is still the accumulation of points over time. So do a Google search and you'll find that 1 point typically translates to about 1.4 cents. So as you accumulate points, you start building up this in your account. And as you can see, I'm up to 328,792 points at this time. And that's plenty to take a few trips. So I use those usually for family trips and things like that. If I'm flying solo, I usually don't use the points at that time. But one of the second tier with this kind of Southwest card is what they call Companion Pass. And that I've been able to hit the last couple years. So like I said, if you look for the point bonuses during certain times of the year, you can get really close to that within the first quarter of the year. Once you get it, you get it for the remainder of that year plus the following year. So I got it last year. So this year, my wife gets to fly free whenever I fly. So that's a huge perk. So I travel sometimes by myself, but she also goes with me during other trips, maybe let's say 6 times a year. So if you say the average trip is $500, that's $3,000. It can add up really quickly, and that's a really nice perk. So Companion Pass, like I said, this is what gets with Dave, right? He's looking at it saying that shouldn't be a goal. You should be trying to accumulate points. No, but like anything else, if there's a $3,000 perk out there, well, then all the more power to you, just like clipping a coupon to say, well, is it worth the effort to get there? Is it worth it pulling out? In this case, I just pull out the credit card. I don't go out and I don't buy additional items in order to try to get to that. But I do look for ways to charge to my credit card that I wouldn't have otherwise, because that actually does make sense. As long as it makes financial sense, then it does, right? Like if you're going to, I guess a good example might be if you know you're going to use these points, or if you're pretty confident you're going to use these points, and you have, and you're going to get 1.4 cents, and the transaction fee to charge some particular item might be $10, and it's $10,000. Well, the math is going to add up that it's going to make sense probably for you to charge that to your credit card in order to get the points that you're going to use later that are at a higher value. So That might be where he's headed with all of this. But again, if you're not, if you're decent with addition and subtraction, maybe that multiplication key, you're probably going to be okay figuring out what is best for you in most of these instances. So in 2022, I expect this credit card to put about $4,000 or $5,000 in my pocket because I use it. So the difference between Dave Ramsey and I when it comes to this particular subject is that I'm willing to swim with the sharks. He's afraid to get in the ocean. I'll swim with the sharks. But I'll pay my credit card off each month. I won't spend more because I have a credit card. Because of all that, it's going to save me about $4,000 or $5,000 per year. So I'm still going to make it over here working. I'm just going to spend a little bit less over here because I have a credit card. Doesn't sound bad, right? Not a bad way to go in my book. But part of wealth, I think, is maneuvering through risks. So I think when he looks at this, he needs to think of it that way. Maybe educate people that they need to maneuver themselves through risk more than saying, don't do it. It's the end all be all. But, if a credit card is the biggest risk I'm going to take, I'm going to be just fine. And so are you. Now, if you have any questions on any of this at all, please ask down below. If you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. And we'll see you next time with something just as wild as using a credit card. Have a great night. Take care. Whoop.